Welcome to my real estate market update for May 2025. If I had to choose one word right now to describe the housing market, it would be uncertain. There's uncertainty about home prices. There's uncertainty about mortgage rates. There's uncertainty about the economy. What impact are tariffs going to have? Is a recession coming? There is even uncertainty about whether a full-blown housing market crash might be coming. Well, in this video, I'm going to break down everything that is going on right now. First, we're going to look at things from an overall perspective, paying particular attention to home prices and mortgage rates. And then I'm going to zoom in on what's going on right here in Frisco. And finally, I'm going to wrap up by sharing what all of this means, whether you're thinking about buying, selling, or you're just sitting on the sidelines, waiting it out. Let's dive in. Hi, this is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas. And I have to admit, over the past month, I have had more consultation calls with potential buyers and sellers that honestly just don't know what to do. And you might be one of them. I mean, the headlines are all over the place. There's a lot of conflicting information out there, and it has led to a great deal of uncertainty. Even when you look at home prices, for instance, there's some areas of the country right now, especially in the Northeast, home prices are going up. They're going up at a fairly good rate. In other areas of the country, prices are flat. And then other areas of the country, prices are actually declining a little bit year over year. And that makes it really hard to know what the right thing to do is. Should you sit and wait? Are prices going to fall? What about mortgage rates? So there's just generally this uncertainty out there. So I'm going to share my screen with you first. We're going to go through just a few slides on what's happening nationally. And you're going to see, as I bring this first slide up, exactly where some of that sentiment is coming from. So a survey was done recently by Clever Real Estate, and in that survey, they found that 70% of Americans are concerned about a potential housing market crash in 2025. And that is a massive number of people that have this level of concern. As a matter of fact, that same survey went on to show that 32% of those surveyed who plan to make a major purchase this year we're now delaying it due to that uncertainty. In fact, it's 1 in 4, so 22% who plan to buy a home have put that on hold, and 1 in 8 who plan to sell a home have put that on hold as well. And speaking of a crash, although many Americans tend to believe that the housing market is at risk of crashing, according to Business Insider, the economists that follow the housing market closely say conditions generally do not support it, and they are not expecting any sort of a crash in 2025 or beyond unless something changes with the economic outlook. And of course, there's no certainty on anything. Could something change? Sure. None of us know what the future is going to hold, but the bottom line is that there is honestly nothing in the data to suggest that right now. The truth of the matter is, for there to actually be a housing market crash, we would need to see a massive run-up in inventory, coupled with a softening of demand, a drastic softening of demand. And I know you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, there's homes for sale all over my neighborhood. I mean, seeing more for sale signs now than I have seen in a long time. And you are absolutely correct. You are. And sales have slowed. Not as many people are buying compared to what we've seen the last few years. But is that a warning sign? You know, is the market waving the red flag here? And no, some perspective is in order. And you're going to see that when I dive into the local data and show you exactly what's going on here in Frisco. And if you're not in Frisco, that's all right. I'm going to show you exactly how to get that same information for the market that you are most interested in as well. You know, one of the things I like to say kind of from that perspective, think about driving down the highway, and depending on where you are, what the speed limit is, let's say you're doing 80 and you're cruising at 80 and all of a sudden you see a state police, the highway patrol, a state trooper, something along that, and you slow. you take your foot off the gas and you slow down. Maybe the speed limit's 65. So you slow to 65 and it feels like you're crawling. You suddenly feel as though you're moving like a turtle. It's just stopped. And again, it's perspective. It's not that 65 is slow. If traffic had been moving at 65 and you're in the flow of traffic, you wouldn't think anything about it. But the fact that you'd been going 80, it feels like you're crawling now. And that's exactly what we're seeing in the housing market. I've been saying for quite a while right now that for the past few years, the past 5 years, the housing market has been anything but normal. So what we are seeing right now is, yes, there's definitely a softening of conditions, but it's normalizing. It's actually balancing out. As a buyer, you have more choice than you've had in a long time. And as a seller, for the most part, it's that you can't put your house up for sale and get flooded with offers within just a few days, although that does still happen some of the time. So we are things moderate, but that doesn't mean they're stopping. So here, as Freddie Mac is telling us, they do expect that the pace of home price appreciation to moderate even from levels that we saw last year, while still maintaining a positive trajectory. So what does that mean? It means that we're still going to appreciate, according to Freddie Mac's research, but just at a slower pace, a more gradual pace, which is actually good news. I know it might not be good if you're just sitting on a home and you're like, I want more equity. But if you end up selling that home and you're buying something else, then the slower pace is actually going to be good for the economy overall. Now, the other thing from some of the prospective buyers I have spoken to over the past month is a wait and see attitude concerning mortgage rates. The idea is they're like, well, prices don't seem to be moving as much. And, we want mortgage rates to come back down before we make a move. And I get that. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I always say mortgage rates move the needle more in terms of affordability than a home price reduction does. If you want a really good example of how that actually works, then I'm going to invite you to check out this video right here. In that video, go towards the end of it. It's a preview I did of a new construction home, but at the end of that video, I go through a mortgage calculator to show you the difference price reductions compared to mortgage rates make. I think you'll find it really, really interesting. But in speaking to those buyers, one of the things is they're expecting rates to drop to where they were before. And I got to admit, I think that was a once in a lifetime occurrence. I don't think we're going to see rates in the high 2s or 3s anytime soon, if ever. It's actually not good for the economy for rates to get down that low. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but that's actually the truth of it from a mortgage rate perspective. So let me show you where the latest projections on mortgage rates are now at. Now, I know this might be a little bit difficult to read. I've kind of zoomed in here as much as I can, but what we're looking at here is we're looking at forecasts from Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Bankers Association, Wells Fargo, and the National Association of Home Builders. And this goes all the way back to the first quarter of 2023, and it goes out to the fourth quarter of 2026. So the rest of this year and all of next year. And here's where we're at today. So you can see rates are lower than they have been the past couple of years, even though they have been climbing again with the economic uncertainty. But when we play this out, let's go all the way to the end of 2026. This line right here is 6%. This line right here is 6.5. So if you're waiting for rates to get down into the 4s in the next year and a half, it's not going to happen unless something drastically changes. So the consensus here is that rates are going to settle in somewhere between 6 and 6.5%. Now, some of the other people that I follow in the financial world, they're saying that the new normal long-term, and I'm talking a few years down the road, the new long-term normal for mortgage rates, they're looking at somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 is where they're projecting rates will end up settling. All right, so now I'm going to turn my attention to the Frisco market and show you exactly what's happening here in Frisco and also give you a bit of perspective on how this compares to years ago, pre-pandemic, as it's going to shed some light on things a little bit different for you. All right, so first and foremost, what we're looking at here is we are in the local MLS. So this is pulling information from actual closed sales that have taken place. And just to preface this, I'm only looking at residential properties here. I'm not looking at condos. It's single family residential, but it is all construction types. Some new construction in our local market here is listed in the MLS, so I'm going to cover what is shown there. And here you go. So here in Frisco, as you can see, year over year, so April to April, prices are actually up. The median price is up 4.2%. That's volatile. It goes up and down every month, as you can see by how jagged this line is. But the point I really want to make is here's the pandemic. And then we got into the beginning of 2021, and this is the massive run up in prices that we saw across the country, right? And then we got to April, May of 2022, we started seeing that blip. That's when mortgage rates started to rise, and boom, everyone's talking about a correction. We had a correction. That's when it was. It was in the back half of 2022. So we saw that. But look here. If we go out to January of 23, and then we look at where we are now, pricing in Frisco for closed sales is relatively flat. We haven't really done much. It's up and down every month due to the mix of homes changes every month, but we're not really seeing prices go up. We're not really seeing prices go down. They're just kind of hanging steady. But if we were to draw a straight line through here, the trend is up ever so slightly. So even with everything going on, we are not currently seeing a big softening of home prices. Why? Has to do with inventory relative to demand, as we said. So let me switch this and take a look at homes for sale. Now, I'm going back 10 years here, and I did this on purpose. Here's where we are in April of 2025. Have the number of homes for sale jumped? Are you seeing more homes for sale in your neighborhood? Yeah, you are. Look, I mean, it's almost a vertical line. Okay, so we've jumped way up. Highest we've seen at any time in the past 5 years. But look where we were in 2019, in 2018, in 2017. Okay, if you look at where inventory had been building. Here's where inventory was. And then here's where we are now. So again, are red bells going or red flags going? Are they flying? Are the bells going off? No, there's no sirens. There's no nothing. Inventory is up, but it's not at an unprecedented level. But you say demand has softened. It has, but let's take a look at this. Here's closed sales. You can see how low closed sales are compared to where we were going back. It's down 11% year over year. It's back to where we were, right? I mean, we're back in these levels. But again, it's not enough of a change to say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Everything is about to come tumbling down. So let me show you this from a different perspective here. So this is from my weekly market report. And I know many of you subscribe to this. If you don't subscribe to it, I invite you to do so. There's a link to it in the description below. And you can set this up for any city or zip code in the entire country. So if Frisco's not your area that you're interested in, you can get this exact same data. This is now looking at list prices. Why am I looking at list prices? Well, it kind of gives you an idea of where the trend lines are, because sellers right now do not just put their home on the market at a high price, hoping someone may come along. Most of the sellers that are selling now, it's because they have to sell and they're pricing their home to sell accordingly. All right. So, but here's the point to make out, right? If we look at 2020, again, here's that massive run up in pricing that we saw. Okay. Here's what happened to prices in 21. Here's when we got into the spring of 23. Here's the spring of 2024. Now look where we are here. Look how flat that line is in comparison. That is basically showing us that prices are still trending up, but they're not flying up like they were before. Again, it's just showing balance in the marketplace and more of a normalization than a correction. Now, if I come over here for a second, just modify, let's take a quick look here. Let's look at how the inventory has changed here. So again, this is showing the same thing. The number of homes for sale has jumped up. It's the highest that we've seen. That right there is what's causing a lot of the uncertainty. But as I just showed you, it's definitely not unprecedented. Now, the last one I'm going to show you here, as many of you know, I love this graph right here, and it's one not a lot of people look at. It's the percentage of homes with a price decrease. Why is this important? Well, it's a good way of looking at demand in the marketplace. So if you have a home up for sale and the seller has to sell and it's not selling, they're going to cut the price. They're going to lower the price. And this is showing us the percentage of homes that take a price reduction before going under contract. That's telling us buyer demand. If buyer demand is strong, sellers don't have to cut their price. As you can see here, when the market started to turn and interest rates started spiking, look at that. I mean, that was going up rapidly. Okay, it also went up again last year. There's normal, right? You look here, it goes up all the time. Okay, look where we are here. Yes, it's gone up. It's turned up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But again, it's not at a level where there is a great deal of concern or there's any alarm bells going off whatsoever. So what exactly does all of this mean if you are considering buying or selling a home right now? Well, if you're a buyer, there's actually a sweet spot in the market right now. And I'm not just saying that to say, oh my gosh, buy, but there actually is. The builders, especially new construction, and you all know I do a lot of quick move-in opportunities because they offer incredible value for the buyer. You have more inventory, you have more negotiating power, and less competition than you have in years past. If those mortgage rates drop, you can expect, or the economic outlook suddenly gets more rosy for people, you're going to expect more buyers to return, which is going to increase the competition overall. The new home builders right now are offering some incredible incentives. They're offering permanent mortgage rate buy downs in many cases to 4.49 or 5.49%. As I just showed you on the mortgage rate projection, we're not expected to get there, but you could lock those rates in for 30 years, and they're rates that we might not get back to in the next 5, 6, 7 years or ever. I mean, we just don't know. If you're a seller, pricing it right is key. Homes that are priced right and offer buyers the best overall value are still moving, especially if they're in good condition. You can't just put any home up for sale right now and expect it to sell. You should not expect multiple offers out of the gate. You should not expect that any home in any condition is going to just have buyers clamoring for it. It is not. It's not going to happen right now, but homes are still selling. So what's the bottom line of all of this? Well, the market's not crashing by any means, and there's no indications in the data that it's going to, but it certainly is shifting. And understanding those shifts, at least I said ships and not something else, right? But understanding those shifts in the market is what's going to help you make a smart move. So if you're planning on buying or selling and you just have more questions about what's going on, then I invite you to reach out. Go ahead and scan this QR code, and it's going to take you directly to my calendar where you can book a free 30-minute consultation. Consider it a discovery call to go over your situation in more detail, and they'll allow me to share more information specific to your situation that's going to help you make the best decision for you and your family, as that is what is most important. So thanks so much for sticking with me this month. Hopefully this helps shed some light on what's going on in our local real estate market, and I will see you in the next video.